Oh, welcome there. I'm Marlax, and I'll be your representative for TerraCraft right now. As a new player to the game, there's a few things we probably should go over, okay? There's going to be some simple things. You have the right and the freedom to do whatever you want in this game. You do not have the right or the freedom to be a pansy and make us look bad, alright? You must be prepared for all contingencies, my friends, okay? If we look over here, you can see that you can put a number of items and cram them into vehicles. Players like doing this a lot with as many items as they possibly can and as many vehicles as they possibly can. I think that you should probably have some class and refrain from cramming as much stuff as you possibly can in vehicles, namely because it can glitch out and cause a bunch of issues that will, you know, negatively impact your gaming experience at the very beginning, unless you have a very thick skin, okay? That being said, we're aboard the Carrack, one of the main ships that I've been using for this organization at the moment. And these are some special containers that you can use and put around your ship that you can find pretty easily. What we're going to be going over, though, is just some basic gear and a couple of areas and stuff. We are being based out of Hurston at the moment. Hurston has quite a lot of useful areas that we can be using, easy missions to do, etc. But we'll go over a little bit of the Stanton map in general right now. There's a couple of areas that we should be looking for when you start. So, Stanton in general has quite a few planets. But this is a medium security system, so piracy and stuff can still happen. It can happen anywhere. That being said, over the last, decade or whatever being here, the majority of stuff tends to be that I've seen around Crusader and in Crusader, namely the Crusader planet itself, Seraphim Station, Yella, and Daymar. But generally, Crusader is a little bit more active with the PvP. And then we have Microtech is usually a little bit more active with the PvP. Namely because Microtech has illegal missions and stuff that happens there, access to hacking chips, etc. And Crusader has Grimhex, which is also a kind of neutral zone for pirates and stuff as well. So those two systems are a little bit more of the hostile side. And then the ArcCorp, I've never really spent much time here, but most of this is city surface area, so I would assume this is a fairly more PvP or PvE friendly. However, I do know that people who trade and sell goods and cargo come here, so that might be a hostile area for cargo trade goods. Be interesting to know, but shouldn't really be that big of a deal when you first start off. And then Hurston, I believe, is probably one of the better places to start. I was a big fan of Orison for a long time, but Hurston, you get a very fast rotation around the sun, which means you can shorten the distance that you're traveling to some of these other planets. So sometimes, like if I wait, Hurston will be over here and it'll be pretty close to Crusader, so I can cut down my fuel costs. And then right now it's closer to ArcCorp, so I can cut down my fuel costs to ArcCorp. Or I could jump from Hurston to one of these uh, side stations that are on the same orbited path of these, Pyro Gateway or ArcCorp or whatever. And if you time those right, you can conserve a lot of fuel. Um, so it's pretty useful to be able to have this quicker rotation. So for instance, I could like come from here, jump over to this station here, or not that station. I could jump over to like wait for this station to like come around, jump on this station here, then wait for that station to go and meet up with ArcCorp or Pyro Gateway, and then jump and like save a lot of fuel, but you do give up some time. It's pretty good though. Hurston Dynamics is kind of a gray zone with the law as well. They have some stuff that negatively impacts you here, but there's a lot of pretty easy things to do, namely these mercenary contracts. So when you first start the game, you can easily do an assist and defend site. There's a bunch of them here. You can get as many spacesuits and armors and everything else that you could possibly want, guns, just doing this right at the beginning of the game and getting paid for it instead of going to these stores and buying it yourself. Difference is that you'll be looking at like a pirate, like a NPC, and that could get you shot at down the road. But the thing is, Stanton is a um, medium law zone, so if a player does shoot you because you look like an NPC, they're going to get a crime stat and you can kill them without having an issue. So that's pretty good for the most part. Now, from this map, some things to note about these planets. These comma rays that float around the planet are what govern your governmental system, basically. If they go down and they're deactivated, you won't have an eyeball in the corner of your screen, and that means that players can basically kill you without a crime stat, so it doesn't matter what you're wearing in general. But in this system, I would say that it is pretty useful to be able to disguise yourself as hostile NPCs to keep yourself safe and also give you the right to kill people who shoot you. So that's always pretty good. Now, the other thing is when you spawn on Hurston, another area that is very useful is a place called Picker's Field, which you can get missions for pretty consistently. All right. And this place is just a group of NPCs that you can kill without getting a crime stat pretty consistently. As well as there is groups of NPCs at other fortified bunkers that are pirates that you can kill without any big issue. Picker's Field, though, spawns multi-tools, tool attachments, knives, um, and as well has armor sets and stuff that you can use in the game, which are very important. And now we'll go over a couple of other things here. So, first things first, you don't have to always wear armor, and as a new player, you should probably stick to atmospheric planets for the most part. That just reduces the total amount of armor and cost that you need, and then also you can slowly accumulate white beacon suits. If you were to die, you can accumulate those suits and then just use those afterwards to explore a planet, because you can get a white beacon suit when you die every time, but you don't have to wear it every time. So you could store those somewhere on a ship or inside your base or whatever, and slowly get like 10 or 20 of them. Put like 10 of them in your ship. It'll save you time, so you don't have to worry about all that. Also, one of the big things, if you're not wearing suits and stuff all the time and you're wearing clothing like this, is you don't have a lot of protection, so you need to be using ground vehicles and stuff more often. That way you don't get shot in the face and die instantaneously. So you're going to have to be a lot more cautious, which will help you develop your skills in game. So that's going to be pretty good. The other thing is that you can't carry a whole lot of personal items when you're wearing clothing. All right, until they allow us to wear backpacks or etc., you can't really do that. So your primary thing that you want to use is a 1/8 SCU container, which allows you to carry it by hand to where you're going, place it down, put items inside of the container, and carry the container back. That's going to be your bread and butter storage device when it comes to this stuff. And then later on, when you're wearing a backpack, you can still use the 1/8 SCU containers, but it's not a huge deal. You can buy these containers at places like we are now, like Everest Harbor, um, which is pretty good, and then you can also find them at places like Picker's Field. The ones at Picker's Field, though, do not allow you to carry them, but they are pretty good for storing items inside your ship, specifically because people can't carry them. They have to have a tractor beam. And that means if you're able to kill people enough to where their bodies despawn, etc., and they don't have any tractor beams or gear, they then can't really steal your loot out of the things. The problem is, if you have a lot of tractor beams on your ship, that can be a problem. So, separating items and goods inside of your ships, such as your guns and your ammunition, your tractor beams and your tractor beam attachments, etc., can help keep people from stealing your stuff as fast, and you will know where all those items are. So you could have 500 containers in your cargo area, but if they don't know which one has the tractor beams, um, it might be a problem. You know, it'll take them some time, give you some time to react. Having multiple copies of ships as well will help save you time in the game, especially starter ships. So like if you have an Aurora or a Cutter, etc., a lot of people want to upgrade to the next biggest ship, which you can do, and it's good to upgrade. But you can also just save up a little bit of money to capture or buy a similar ship to what you already have. And then if one goes down, you can just grab the second ship and keep on rolling. The other thing is that when you start off in the game originally, uh, you can capture NPC ships, but they won't stay with you the whole time. But if you can capture them, you don't necessarily have to buy or rent them. And you'll see a lot of missions, especially mercenary missions, etc., that'll have NPC Cutlass Blacks and stuff like that laying around that you could use for free, but people just don't take advantage of because you're only going to get them for the day, basically. Now, you can also put distortions on your ship, and if you have enough people with you, you can gather up and take over other NPC ships in the game with distortions and boarding parties, which will allow you to have much bigger and more expensive ships, such as Reclaimers, Valkyries, Carracks, everything like that. If you can find them in the wild and you can capture them, you can fly them. And those are all good ships to have early game that, you know, you're saving $600, you know. You can go out there, you put a little bit of time in, you can capture a Carrack for a day, you put it in your persistent hangar and keep it around for a little bit. But that's going to allow you to kind of use those bigger ships without putting in all the money. But you're not going to be able to get them back with an insurance claim, and you're not going to be able to get them back, you know, if you log off without them or if you bed log. So there are risks involved with those ships, but you can use them to some degree in the game without needing a lot of stuff. But you will probably have to manually unload your cargo and stuff, not store the ship when you leave. It's better if you have multiple people so that you can stay on the ship so it doesn't despawn. There's a lot of things with that that can get kind of involved over time, right? Okay, where were we? Now, when we look at my character right now, I'm using light armor. This is not an excuse for you to be a defenseless wuss, okay? You need to be able to have a pistol or firearm on your person at all the time, all right? Your multi-tool tractor beam device, you can have this on your person all the time. This will help you with a number of things. Namely, if you get ejected out of the ship, you might be able to get back in with the tractor beam. Um, you know, moving cargo and stuff on the ground, moving bigger containers that you find from other players, like 1 SCU, 2 SCU boxes, cargo that you might find from wreckages, things like that. These tractor beams are very useful for that kind of thing, and pretty much good to have. Now, when it comes to carrying your firearm when you don't have any um, clothing and stuff to hold everything, you can't put these ammo things. There's nowhere to slot them. There's no slots in my armor for them. They're in my pockets. So I would lean more towards high damage firearms like this revolver that I use. Mainly because with the revolver you get 6 shots, they're high damage, and then you get a fairly short animation pulling out this, and it is kind of realistic to do that. But whatever magazines that you put inside of your pockets, when you reload, they're going to end up on the ground. So you got to be very conservative with your ammo and things like that. And then the second item that you want is a pocket knife, because the knife essentially is the most important tool in all of Star Citizen, and nobody uses it. Okay, so there's a lot of missions that have you need to destroy a device or an item or something. The knife can destroy those items for the most part without wasting your bullets, and bullets are important because you need them to shoot people. And wasting all your bullets destroying drug boxes or servers or anything else is just a waste of time. You can also use them to damage NPCs and kill NPCs. You can use them to assassinate NPCs in one hit, which you can also knock them out with your gun, so that's both good. But you get to choose by right-clicking and pushing equip in your inventory, so you need to use the game a little bit more like Tarkov or some other shooter where you need to use your inventory to get these items back and forth. And that's okay, because it also means that people don't know that you necessarily have a knife or a gun on you. You could probably slide your gun in there if you didn't want the knife in there. But it is good to have that option to be able to pull it out and conserve ammo, especially when you don't have a lot of ammo storage capacity on your character anyway. You want to save the gun for the important stuff. Now, this also goes with medical items and things like that. You can put them in your pockets. And what we'll say is, with us anyway, is that there's a lot of armors that have flashing lights on them or glowy things. This helmet that I'm wearing that I swapped to has a glowy light on it, a number of them. So if you're in combat or other things, this can give you away if someone's looking for it and they see it in the distance and you get shot in the face. Now, the rest of my armor is all plain. It doesn't have any extra lights or anything on it, so when I'm in a dark map environment, I can, stay hidden a little bit better. Now, things like this multi-tool that is on my hip have a light source on the back of it, which other players can probably see, and it's usually facing them. So the more gear that you want to put on, I just assume not to have tractor beam devices, medical devices, anything like that on your hips when you're playing those characters. Put them in your pockets, put them in your backpack. I don't really care. Press I, use the item. If you're playing against players, just put them in your thing so that you're not easily to see. And wear armors that don't have a bunch of lights on them. The lights aren't easily to see till like really far away. They won't see them very often. But if you're close distance and you're trying to hide, the lights are just a beacon and it's not really worth putting on. There's a very few armor sets you can actually use like that, but that's what we do for the most part, or what I'm going to be doing. Now, that means like when you're in combat, you're going to have to pull up your inventory and right click and put the thing in your hand and grab it, or if you have areas that you can collect items and put them on your person. When you press I, you can rapidly click multiple times when you get into combat to put those med pins on you very quickly, and then you can push the hotkey right after. So just keep like 4 med pins or whatever in your backpack, use them when you need them, and then when you're in a bad situation, you can find a time to rapid click, put them in there. But you probably want to medic around more than like carrying everything yourself anyway. Main thing is the knife is a very important tool. Nobody really uses it, and it should be used more often. We go down to the subdeck. Now, when you are in light armor, or not armor, just clothing, vehicles become very important. These things can tank grenades, they can tank bullets, they have guns on them, so you don't have to put yourself at risk or harm's way before it gets destroyed. And then if you do eventually get destroyed in it or whatever, you aren't wasting the only armor that you had while you're driving the vehicle because you're in clothing. So in Star Citizen, you have multiple lives. In the future, this is gonna, impact you more or less the more times you die. But in general, I would say it's better to have your good equipment still accessible to you on your ship or whatever after you die the first time, than just driving a vehicle and dying with your armor and losing both at the same time. So, a flight suit, a beacon suit, whatever, personal clothing if you're on a planetary surface, all these things, it'd be good with you. And then if you have buddies and they have armor, they can be in the back and they can dismount and they can lose their armor and you can lose your vehicle. And it's a fair game. They can get mad about losing their armor, but you lost your, primary vehicle. This also becomes pretty important when it comes to your storage things. So you can see in here we have a uh, SMG and an LMG or whatever. So you can put weapons on here. You can equip these as a player even without armor on. Even though Star Citizen has like super glitchy animations and button pushes. But as a player, even without any armor, you can grab guns off the ground. NPCs do this all the time, but you don't really see players do it all that time because they don't wear no armor. But then you can have ammunition in here, slide the ammunition over to whatever areas you have that can fill or hold those ammunition, or just use the primary rifle, kill people, and then grab the dead guy's rifle and keep grabbing their rifle over and over and over again. You can also put grenades and stuff in here, and if you have enough room for that as well. You could slide out your pistol rounds to put in other ammunition types into your bag. So one magazine and a second magazine can be pretty effective. This is an SMG, has 50 round magazines, so you could have one or two of these 50 round magazines on you. You have like 50 to 100 rounds. That's pretty good just for like a general use 1v1, 2v2. You have an SMG and a pistol. It's not too shabby. Just to get stuff done, you know, and then if none of that works out, you still have your knife. And against NPCs and things, using your knife and your melee attacks is very good. Using stealth does work to some degree. So you can actually take out, you know, 2, 3, 4 NPCs or whatever before they can even shoot you just with a melee attack or a knife. That's all very, very good. Fuses and stuff will become more important later on. Right now they don't really do a whole lot, but these things are important to find, and there's a number of locations that you can find like this all over the map. You can be a miner or a salvager or anything else that you want, but the thing is that there are also outposts in the game that produce these items, and so you can still be a rock seller or a salvage seller and not have the ships to do so. So let's say you started with a Aurora, or you started with a fighter ship or whatever else. You could, in theory, find an outpost that produces these items and stay there. You could kill NPCs in some of these outposts and wear armor that looks like them, light armor and stuff, etc., which most players don't wear, and so they'll think you're an NPC. If you act like an NPC and you look like an NPC and you're wearing armor no one else does and you're doing things no one else does, they might think that you're just an NPC. And then you can defend yourself if you get attacked. Defend yourself if you get attacked. Now, then you can acquire items from them, which they may be trying to sell or produce. You could be also gathering items off dead bodies that you didn't have to kill and didn't have to, you know, put yourself in a vulnerable position to earn. And then also you have the ability to collect these items that spawn at these locations and put them in boxes, which even starter ships can do and doesn't require you to mine or anything else. Moving on. Armories and things like this, you can get a number of items throughout the game. There are like sniper rifle spawns and all that kind of stuff you can learn over time. Having extra tractor beams, extra guns, extra pistols, and even these, which are repair tools, are kind of useful. The other day, even on this ship, this Carrack has never been destroyed by a player while I was driving it, you know, intentionally. And the other day, we got attacked by a Vanguard, and I escaped. And this tractor beam, although it can't really fix components and stuff inside the ship, we had an entirely red back section and we had a red right section over here, and we EVA'd in space and repaired some of the hull damage that was on the side, and the side over here turned back green, but we couldn't repair anything else, so the hull damage was kind of minor anyway. Now when it comes to these containers, I'm going to show you the containers real quick. So if you go to Picker's Field, you can find containers like this that spawn fairly frequently. These things also spawn with loot inside of them. So you can find multi-tools, rocks that you can sell, things like that. I don't remember exactly where you can sell them, but these boxes do have some issues where items seem to be falling outside of the box like that, or they're spawning things outside of the box. I don't really know what the difference is. I think they're falling out though. But these are useful items where you can store all kinds of goods, and you can stockpile on flares, you can stockpile on multi-tools, you can stockpile on knives, things like that, so you don't have to buy them, because all those can be like 1,000 or something a piece. So you can find a number of things in these boxes, and that's all pretty good. Now, the handheld SCU crates are these that you can buy at like Everest Harbor. These you can actually carry and open and use, so they're all pretty useful. But you can load those on your ship and everything else without having to have a tractor beam gun at the very beginning. And then after you open them, I guess they turn into a similar box, the same as those. But it's kind of an interesting container. It's one of the few that can go through most ship doorways and things. Like single SU boxes can't fit through everything, and that's kind of a big deal. Now, ship power managements and stuff like that, there's like stealth, EM, and all that signature. All that you can kind of learn over time, but in general, there's kind of like two things to think about here. One is that if you are going to leave somewhere over time that has players, if people want to destroy your ship, they're going to destroy your ship. But if your shields are on, people can't salvage your ship and hull scrape it. So that's all pretty good stuff to have, you know, when it comes to like a ship, I would say. Being able to protect it from getting hull scraped overnight. But also, you can turn off a whole lot of your components and reduce your EM signature all the way down, or completely power down your ship to keep people from seeing it from super far away. And realistically, if you're not going to be in your ship the whole time, even if the shields are on, people are going to find it and destroy it. If you're parked really close to a POI, you just leave your shields on. If you're not parked close to a POI and you're trying to stay off the grid where people can't see you as well, then just turn everything off, because if they want to destroy it, they're going to destroy it. But when it comes to your shield placement, when it comes to a lot of ships, this is a large ship, so the shields are a little bit different. But you can see on the Carrack here, we have 60 on the front, left, and right, and 220 on the back. Now, depending on what ship you have, you're going to have to look over your ship a little bit. But the Carrack, in general, on the sides, it has these two turret wings. They're exterior that can block some of the side firepower from people from the rear. And if they get destroyed, they get destroyed. It's not a huge deal, right? And then when we look at the ship itself, the top deck doesn't really have anything majorly important. The middle deck doesn't have anything majorly important besides the med bed. The bottom is just cargo and stuff. And then the front is just a cockpit. But also, the front cockpit is made of this glass, and you can see from the front view, if they were to shoot us from the front, all they really have is the bottom vehicle bay, which isn't really that important, and then the glass in the front, which is like the strongest part of any ship on the glass. And then this ship, on top of the glass, can deploy a protective shell over its glass. So my theory is ships like this have a very strong front section of the ship and have extra defense on the ship, so they don't need as many shields on the ship, because 1/3 of like the area that people could shoot is heavily armored, like more than the rest of the ship. And then the other places they can shoot aren't really vital to the ship all too much, right? And then the sides, if someone does get to the sides and shoots, you know, it's gonna hurt, but they have to keep up with the Carrack, so they're gonna have to shoot and maintain speed with the Carrack at the same time. And also, if you have enough people, sometimes you can have a little surprise for people. So with this ship in particular, It has a top deck where people could potentially shoot out of. It has a hangar area which people can potentially shoot out of. It has this front ramp section which people could potentially shoot out of. It has these cargo bays that can pop up the side which people could potentially shoot out of. As well as we have those Furies that act as miniature turrets in the bottom of the Carrack, which are basically mini turrets. And then the rear section of the Carrack is where all the most vital stuff is. So we're trying to run away, we're trying to get out of there. This is where all the engines are, the power supplies, the quantum drives, all that stuff is very, very important. And on this particular ship, it is all crammed back there, and it is a very vital target. Everyone says that, and that's why we have 220 on the shield back there. This increases the total amount of shield that you have on that side of the shield face, but it also seems to increase the recharge rate of that shield face in particular, so much so that we've been able to basically take infinite hits from some ships if they don't space out their shooting properly, because this will recharge so fast that they can't get through. So ideally with the Carrack in this ship is that we can move past our enemies, get them behind us on our strongest shield face, and then hit them with these turrets that have a really good line of fire in that back section. Ideally, I think that's what we're trying to do with this ship in general, and each ship is going to be different. You're going to have to learn what each ship can do, but I'm pretty sure this is the best way for this ship to kind of operate, and I'm sure there's other ships that will have similar sort of things that you can do to like make them solid. The origin ships, all of that, they have like a lot of speed, so they should be able to go. These have a lot of armor, so they're pretty well balanced, and I think it'll be pretty good. There's something else. So if you have a ship with weapon types, they share power on some ships. So this Carrack has 4 turrets, all energy. If I swap 2 of these turrets out to ballistics, potentially you could get more ammunition and more shots on the other turrets, and I think that could be beneficial for the most part. Any case, I think this is a good summary of a lot of the stuff that you should know. The other things is if your ship has a bed, usually if you aren't, if you don't have like a random NPC or person or a random ship on your ship, and you have a bed and you own the ship, you can, in space or land it on a planet, log off on the bed by laying in the bed, and then looking and holding F or whatever on the thing that pops up, and then pressing log off. And then right now, most of the time, you'll log back on where you were. Every now and then, you'll log back on into space, but it's been very, very much consistent compared to the way it used to be in the past. So, like, these are all pretty good things, I think, to know.
You are
Whatever
clear to launch.
whatever role, whatever thing that you want to do in Star Citizen, I think this is important for pretty much any gameplay loop for the most part, and useful for us as well. Y'all guys have a good one. I'm gonna go get some more loot.